And hi, it's Susan at Seaside Stitches. I'm the one who wears funny hats. I wear this so that I've got my face whited out even more than it normally is. And I'm here to talk to you about malignant melanoma, a challenge that's going on that has prizes, that all you have to do is make something that will protect you from the sun. It could be a little bag that you put your sunscreen in. It could be a tiny little bag that you put your sunscreen in just so that you don't forget it. Okay, good morning. I am making a video for the wonderful challenge that Lucy has set up. Lucy is the sewing gardener with underscores in between those words, and she has set up this challenge. It's about protecting yourself in the sun. It's called Sew. It's really difficult to remember for me. It's called Sew Skin Summer. So it's hashtag Sew Skin Summer, and you are invited to make a garment or a hat or something that you could use to represent evidence that you are trying to support yourself in looking after your skin in the sun. And the challenge is all about prevention of malignant melanoma and other skin cancers. There is an organisation that supports us, supports people who have had or who are trying to prevent melanoma. Melanoma is quite a serious kind of skin cancer in that it can appear just flat and not very aggressive. So this is Melanoma and Skin Cancer Month in May. So it isn't always just what you see on the surface. It can meander and it can drop cells in different places. So if you spot what you think is a changing area, and I'm going to say mole, but some people think these are moles. That's not what we're talking about. This is kind of some kind of sebaceous cyst or something. It's nothing to do with being in the sun. It's a dermatological thing. It's nothing. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm trying to describe really is the challenge is for us to get awareness, and us being other people who've had the impact of a melanoma and know what that's like, or know someone who has, or has a generalized fear of how to protect themselves in the sun. And I'm sat here wearing a hat because this is my big beef, really. So I just want to quickly say what the challenge is. The challenge just is for you to think about something that would help. If you're going to be in the sun, can you wear something that covers you up, that covers up your skin? It can be, I'm going to do a bucket hat, and that's why I'm sat here in this silly hat. Or maybe I'm not in that silly hat. Maybe I'm in this silly hat. Some people think you have to wear a hat to cover your face. That's not why I wear a hat. I don't like the sun on my head. It gives me a headache, and so you can get sunstroke. I am doing a lot of looking after myself lately in terms of not stretching myself too far. And I can only commit to a bucket hat. So there are different types of bucket hat, but this one is a free pattern from Orange Betty, I think it's called. But I can't find the instructions just yet. So some people think that they're just for covering your face and keeping your face out of the sun. There is that aspect as well. But melanoma, they love being in your head because no one will detect them. And they can then get to a size or a shape, and often they spread out horizontally. So you're not aware of a lump or a bump, but there could be a patch of brown skin in your hair, on your scalp, that you're not aware of. You're less likely to get that if you always wear a hat in the sun. So here are my selection of hats, and none of them are compulsory. Find your own hat style and love it and live it. Okay, I've got my hair up, so this one's a bit bouncy on my head, and I have a giant head. Most of my dresses have a long puff sleeve with a cuff on, even if they're summery dresses, and that's just, I like to be as covered up as I can be in the sun. And that's because in 1993, well, in 1992, I discovered that a mole on my leg, it started talking to me. So this is something I'd like to say. Listen to your body. If your body is sending you a message about something, just be open to it. So in the 1920s, in 1992, I would have been 38, something like that. No, 30. It don't really matter. In 1992, I was on a counselling course. I'd done a psychology degree as a mature student. I was on a counselling course full-time following that, and I'd noticed that I had a little mole, or a brown patch, moly patch, not just a brown sun patch, which again need covering in the sun. And I was just kept being aware of it. Now I must have had it for years, but I had it, and it started to be making me aware of it. And I'd taken my son to the doctors about something. I asked at reception, could I also ask the doctor something about myself? So she put my notes in as well. I went in, he was in a bad mood. I'd also like to really praise the NHS, because they're getting a bad stick for a lot of things, and I've had to use them recently, and my experience has been absolutely amazing. So I don't want this to be a jump on the bandwagon of having a go at people. You know, they're human beings, and they have a lot of work to do, and some days, like all human beings, they may not be having a good day. But I went in, he examined my son. He wasn't marvellously friendly about that either. And then I just said, could I also ask you about this? I just lifted my skirt back, and he just went, oh, it's just a neva, which is a medical term for a mole, really. Just a neva, that's fine. And so that was it. And then I was just on my counselling course, and I don't know if I was talking to someone, or if I had a short tunic on or something, or I've no idea, but a colleague on that course just said to me, oh, Susan, that's a bit, she said, if I were you, I'd look after that in the sun. And after that was kind of, she's right, I will look after it in the sun. And actually, every time I had any outing into the sun where that was visible, I had a plaster on it. And you know the little circle plasters, that if you get a packet of plasters, you often have no use for this circle plaster, and you think, why do they always put one of these in? Well, I was really pleased about them, because I had as a kind of permanent thing that if we went anywhere and I'd have my legs out, that one had a plaster on it. So, but as I say, I'm a fair-skinned person. I was a ginger nut, and I would burn very, very easily. And when I was a child, you really did not know. I'm talking about, I was born in 1953. There were loads of times we went to the beach. My grandma and granddad lived in St Anne's on the Fylde coast, not far from where we are now. We lived in a mill town in Bury, or a mill town in Rochdale. And of course, when you go to the seaside, it was into your cozies, running about on the sand, and you didn't know, and the grown-ups didn't know. And I have memories of going to school with a red back and wearing and sleeves on my cardigan. My school cardigan would feel like they were Brillo pads on me, and just the distress of that, and not really understanding what that was about. And the things that you could buy in chemists for tanning, they were about getting a tan. They weren't about protecting us from the sun. So I just want to set that in kind of some kind of context, because a lot of what has happened to us as we've grown up and found that we have had a skin cancer or a melanoma has been because we were burnt as children. So my message really is also to those who have children, or who are grandparents or aunties, or have some special relationship with a child, and they can be prepared, you can be prepared to know that a child in the sun should always have a hat on. Always. It drives me nuts because I live at Blackpool and we drive down the prom all the time, or we walk down the prom, and there are people on holiday. There are holiday makers. Their children don't have hats on. They don't have hats on. They have stripes on their shoulders where they wore something like a thin vest top, and their back is red raw, and they're out in the second day with a different top on so that they then can get that red all caught up to tan. The world is absolutely nuts. And Lucy had said, maybe we shouldn't be, she wouldn't want to be judgy. Well, I want to be judgy because I want to say, please, if you are not aware that the sun can really damage your skin, damage your life potential, I'm here to tell you that there are things you can do to prevent that becoming a thing for your future generations and also for yourselves from now on. Often a melanoma wouldn't present until someone is middle-aged, but occasionally it's in young people. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was Lucy mentioned that you can hear her story anyway, but my story was I went to the doctors. He said it was nothing, and then this Dorothy on the course just said keep an eye on it in the sun. And what I noticed was I'd have a shower or something, and I was noticing that it was splitting. There was some kind of like, like a bit of flakiness on it, and it was a little bit out of shape from how I'd remembered it. And these were different things at different times, but over almost a year. And I wasn't aware of malignant melanoma then. As I say, it was 1992, and that doesn't mean by then I wasn't using some kind of sunscreen, because we knew about you didn't want to burn. That was to protect myself from the pain of being burnt, rather than what it might flag up if I got burnt, or not even if I got burnt. So I was using sunscreen then, but I wasn't averse to being out in the sun as long as I had sunscreen on. I wasn't aware, apart from that particular one. Now, since then, I have done a whole body scan of, I have 72 moles, or neither, or whatever, anyway. And I have to be very careful about making sure that I cover every one of them, either by not exposing them because I'm wearing clothes, or if they're exposed, then I need sunscreen on, and I need factor 50 on. So the story then goes that I'm aware of it. It's starting to change. I'm thinking this is not right, and I make another appointment. But I make an appointment with a doctor in the surgery, Dr. Bellew. At that point, we lived in Walton-le-Dale in Preston, and I knew this lady had had cancer herself, and it was a known thing that she had some type of cancer. I didn't know what it was, but I managed to get an appointment with, she was head of the practice. I saw her and I showed it to her, and she immediately said, I think we'll get that seen. So she referred me. Within a week, I had an appointment for just to have it removed as a biopsy, to be sent to histology, to have it checked out. And then 2 weeks within that framework, I was, and it was a plastic surgeon who did that. So some people go to get referred to dermatologists, some people get referred to plastic surgeons, some people, they have someone in their GP practice that has been trained enough to remove a lesion and have it sent off, but don't really have the extra expert knowledge to know what to do with that afterwards. So they refer that on, if you know what I mean. So I saw a plastic surgeon who absolutely turned out was spot on about malignant melanoma. very much up in all the Australian research. And in that time, I'd spoken to a friend of mine. I used to be a nurse. I'm not talking about this in a medical, as a medical expert at all. But I'd spoken to her about it, and she was like, if that's a malignant melanoma, you want to get that off. And then she was talking about cases she was aware of where there is the spread. Is it travelling? That's it. It's the potential to travel. The cells can break free from the capsule that they're in and spread around your body. And so they don't just stay on the surface of your skin. It doesn't necessarily mean another mole will pop up somewhere else. It means that it can get in your lymph system and it can settle somewhere else in your body. So that's why it's not just a bit of something on your skin, that like a pimple or something that will go away, and if not, it'll come back. It isn't that. It's the fact that it has the propensity to spread by shedding cells. I was very, very fortunate in that, even though it had taken that time before I went back, it was an extremely thin one. And when it was biopsied, it was thought that it was still in its capsule. It had not shed. But to be absolutely on the safe side, which is what they do, is they do a wider excision of the area. So I had to go back to have a wider excision of the area, which means there is a stipulated amount of, depending on the size of your lesion, there is a stipulated amount of width that they have to take or depth that they have to take. And only they know that. I don't know that. And so I had that removed, that wider excision taken away from the, just in case there are any cells in that area to be caught. I had that, and there was a possibility, because it's just above my knee. It's about 4 inches, 4.5 from my patella, from my knee. And because there was the potential for having to do stretches and things of where my leg would be, my skin would be, that it was possible that I may have to have a skin graft on it. But he managed to not have to have a skin graft on it, and I had a tension suture underneath, so that held both edges of it together, the longitudinal edges together, and that helped to stop it kind of breaking open, really, busting open. And then I had to go back to the GP because I'd had a general anaesthetic. And again, as a sensitive, red-headed person, occasionally we get side effects from anything there is. And so I'd had nausea as a side effect of the anaesthetic. And I'd gone to the GP, and my appointment was with this doctor who had dismissed it as nothing, but I needed something to help with the nausea, the post-op nausea. And so he was doing that, and so I kind of pulled back my skirt and explained, and this is what I've had this melanoma removed and a wider excision, and I was really wanting to rub it in his face, and that I got this nausea. So as I was getting up to leave, and he was saying, "Why are you limping?" And I said, "Well, I'm limping because it was because of what I'd said then, and the fact that I'd had to have a tension suture." And he was a bit, okay, like, anyway, it doesn't matter, but that's just me blabbing on. But to be honest, I thought at that time, you can get into a space where you are thinking, for me, it affected my mental health. It sounds like nothing. It was something it was something that was tiny, much less than a 5p piece. I don't even know what you'd say it was. I can't remember the measurements of it, but it was a tiny thing in reality that had caused this angst. And even between having that and then going in for the wider excision, that's one of the things where my grandma would say, your mind races on and you've already arranged your funeral, or what she would say was, you've already ordered the boiled ham. So it's the thoughts of, I wouldn't, and anyone with the cancer diagnosis, I'm sure you're aware that you'll have gone through this, and that's why this is an upsetting process, an upsetting topic for a lot of people. And some people are very much, I don't know anything yet, there's no good worrying about it yet until I get this result from having the wider excision, and once it's fine, you go back to work, you don't. But that's not how it affected me. And it took a couple of weeks for it to actually, but between my having it removed and having the wider excision, I was in a place where I could have coped if I'd have had to have my leg off. And that sounds ridiculous. I'm sure that sounds ridiculous to any of you. What? You couldn't possibly be thinking that. I was. If that's travelled up my leg and it's somewhere else in my leg, take my leg. Because that was a way of feeling like, I know it will have gone then. And it also really affected my relationship, because my husband is an absolutely a beautiful human being, and his way of dealing with things is very much different to mine. And it was, oh, she's okay now, and they're going to take the wider excision off it. They're going to take a wider amount off it, away from it, and that will be fine. But for me, I'd already gone through a process of, how will I prepare my son for me not being here? How long will I have? And all these kind of things that I got stuck into feeling like no one understands this. There's nobody understands how important this is to me, how terrified I've been, how and I know Lucy has spoken on hers about how it affected her mental health in kind of what she sees now as potentially irrational ways, but that's how I was. I was having to rethink my relationship. I was rethinking the way I lived my life. I was rethinking so many things. I became really quite depressed, but not understanding that I was depressed. And so my thoughts were all over the place, and I'd not long been, I'd been only about 6 months into working in a college as a student counsellor, supporting young people and also staff members. And I had to be well so that I could do that, and emotionally well so that I could do that. So I went for therapy, and to get my head back in kind of line. And this is what the challenge is. We want to raise awareness about the importance of covering your skin in the sun. If you are not physically covering it, then please cover it with a suitable protective cover. And to get that awareness, we need to talk about it between ourselves, which is why a group of us are sharing this. Not all of us who are sharing it have had that experience, but some of us have. We also could possibly donate through Lucy's page to the Melanoma UK Just Giving page. We could access the Melanoma UK for more information, because there is a really simple A, B, C, D. Some places have E and F, and they are all related to what you're looking for. And I'm not going to list them all now, but it starts with asymmetry. There's an A, there's a something for the B, there's something for the C, there's something for the D, there's something for the E. It means you have a quick access place to look at this mole here on my leg, is it asymmetrical? That means is it not just, it's not regular in shape? Is it irregular in shape? Has it darkened? So it's, I'm not going into that. I'm going to put you a link to the Melanoma UK website so that you can arm yourself with all the information you need so that you can look at your skin now or when you have a shower, or a lot of people get them on their backs, on their shoulders. So you need a good mirror so that you can look in a mirror for yourself. If you're with someone, if you have a partner, a friend, a relative who you could show your back to, or anywhere else that you want to be looking for it, looking to see if you are clear, or if you have a mole, if you're not suspicious about it, will you be able to keep an eye on it? And that's the important thing. It's like when you're checking for lumps, it's keeping an eye on the possibility. And just because you never go in the sun doesn't mean you won't get them. Because if you were in the sun as a child without any protection, there's a possibility you already have some damage somewhere that could potentially, not necessarily will, but could potentially affect you in later life. Right, I'm stopping that preachy bit. I'm going to make my bucket hat. I hope I'm making my bucket hat. Whatever you make, you can, and there's a list of things that Lucy suggests, maybe something that you'd want to make in her vlog, and I'll put a link to that. And she'd be very happy if you post it just as you make it. Don't wait for everybody to post it on the 31st, because she'll be completely inundated. And if she is inundated, she will be like totally overwhelmed because she's doing this challenge on her own. So if you're making something, put it on as soon as you can make it. So you tag her and you put hashtag #SewSkinSummer on your make on Instagram, and you choose whether or not you make a donation. And what was I going to say? And there are prizes. So there are prizes. And let's get making. Let's get protecting ourselves. Let's just get more aware that we can't be flippant about it. We just can't be, oh, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm only in it for 10 minutes. Speak to you another time. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye for now.